Take your time.
How about now? Can you hear me now? I think I had it muted here inside of Streamlabs. Always something. All right. Sorry about that. Welcome back, everybody. We'll fix that in post. Probably not. Cool. Sounds like we're good. Happy Monday. Another casual week in markets last week. Got a lot to talk about. We got the new Fed chair, the metals implosion, I guess. Crypto. What's up, Josh? Before we get started, just the quick housekeeping items. Got the free Magic Lines Discord, the link in the description below. If you were following me in there for the last few weeks, hopefully you avoided some pain last week. Also, we're able to get out of metals right before the nuke. So that was fun. Like the stream, give the channel a follow if you're not already. Let's just jump right into things. Want to start this episode out with a shout out to all the haters and losers. I saw you last week, Mohammed, coming into the chat, calling me a bottom signal on crypto. I saw you. Anyway, for those of you living under a rock, we nuked last week. We nuked into the weekend on Bitcoin. We've got a new month today. It's February. Time to take a step back, take stock of what transpired in January, make our trading plans, our thoughts for the coming days. My thoughts on Bitcoin have not really changed. I still think that we are coming into 74K or so. We still have not taken this liquidity. And we may be leaving behind equal lows here. So expecting some sort of bounce here to start the month. And then the pain will resume. But I think that there's a good chance that might be it for a while. I'm hopeful that might be it for a while. You know, I can get on board the idea that this is basically just a pullback in the higher time frame context, right? Maybe it ends up looking like that. The hopium on the yearly chart for Bitcoin is that you've got this juicy 1 year fair value gap. You got the prior all-time high at 69K, and you've got the mid-range of the 2024 candle chilling right there around 73K. So there are a lot of reasons for us to bounce right around this little demand area here. And whether we bounce from that or we liquidate the bottom of that zone around 66K, I don't know, but like roughly this area, I think is going to be good. So my expectation is something like this. And then we go back up. Kind of depends how we go into this level, how strongly we go in, whether I think we're going to actually like bounce pretty significantly or resume lower or chop. Honestly, like I'm mostly just concerned with Bitcoin just stopping the going down nuking thing. I don't really want to buy Bitcoin. I could not care less about this asset right now. Kind of sad, but it is what it is. I don't really see a reason for it to go up in any sort of outperformance kind of way. It's got the quantum overhead. It's got the questions about Sailor and MSTR lingering. I do not think that Sailor is safe here. I hate longing stuff when the market just like knows you're going to get fucked like a little bit lower. or a big whale. It's never a fun thing. And we saw that this weekend on ETH, right? Because I don't know if you guys saw that Garrett guy, Garrett Bullish. Poor guy. I think he had like 500 million in ETH liquidations, like right there. Gone. Poof. So Garrett's liquidated. The ETH sell-off has been wild, right? Because we've basically just had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive lower lows. So it's been relentless, but I think it's almost over. I think the pain is actually almost over for Ethereum. And I think we're going to get like a really nice long trade coming up in here soon. For those of you guys who were not aware, we shorted up around here, and our last TP on the short was 2,300 right into this order block here. Pretty clean target, pretty clean trade. Ended up taking a couple of entries along the way, closed it once or twice along the way, got back in, but we did it. We were right. We were right on the short. And now it's time to start thinking, I think a little more positively about the space. I don't know that I want to buy ETH for the long haul right here to a breakout to all-time highs. I still think it's going lower. I still think we're going to tag this little area at a bare minimum this year. What was that, $1,300? I think that's happening. I think this $800 low gets taken out at some point. I'll be more interested there. But a swing trade from 2K to maybe, 4,400 or so. It's a nice 2x. Can't get mad about that. So, I mean, baseline expectations for Ethereum moving forward here. We've got a similar thing. We're going to leave behind, I think, a couple of equal lows. So, because of how aggressively we sold off here, just straight down, there's no market structure for us to kind of like reclaim. There's no liquidity to fuel an upside move. And so this is going to bounce to some height, I'm pretty sure, and then come back down and then likely take out the 2,100 liquidity. And there's a really, really, really nice setup here because you've got this kind of structural demand sitting here at the range lows, starting at a little under $2,100. It's basically the origin of this entire high time frame move, right? So this move comes up, we sweep liquidity at the range high, price is now going back towards the range low. And I think at that point, the probability we find a bottom is very, 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 very high in here. I think there's some more liquidations tucked away behind 2K. I doubt they get hit this week or even next week. Could be a while before we come back down, but I do think we will come back down. And when we take those out, if we can get some sort of accumulation and a little manipulation move, something like that, the upside targets are looking really, really juicy right now. I mean, we've got a lot of liquidity built up here. We got all these highs just chilling here. All the shorts have had a free lunch forever, right? So if we start coming back up, be looking at this as a range, maybe the lows around there. You're going to have all this liquidity around the mid-range, 3,500 or so. That's going to be a juicy first target, right? So if you're able to kind of get in down here on a long. So they're able to get in a little under the lows, stop there. That's immediately going to be like a pretty juicy 2-to-1 trade for you, right? But in reality, all the way up here at range highs, some unmitigated supply way up there at 4,400. That is a smooth 3.5x if you're putting your risk all the way down at the lows. So pretty good. And I don't know, like I'm not taking a move above all-time highs off the table either. Way too early to make that call. But it's like in the distribution of outcomes. I suspect that, we do this, roughly speaking, just complete the mental illness fractal. Up, down, up, down, up, down. But it's just a range, guys. It is just a range. It's a high time frame range sitting above another range. Here's your range. Price is broken out, just chilling above it for a while. It would not be out of the ordinary for price to chop around above the range, make a move back into the range, and go up. That is just kind of price action 101. Maybe we tag that zone 487-ish, mid 400s. I would like that. Might be a little greedy. But I think at a bare minimum, we got to swipe out 1,400 and come back here into the 1,250 range. And maybe there I would consider some spot longs, maybe, but would prefer to just wipe everything. Good morning, Franco. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. So yeah, lower time frame on ETH. We took some longs in the Discord over the weekend on this dump. Some limit orders here. We got the weekend highs right here. Saturday high, I believe. Yeah, Saturday high, 24.73. So these almost certainly get taken out. So that'll be a good target for a scalp trade. If price chops around in here and then comes back down here to the order block in the 2,200 region, this is probably going to be an interesting place to look for like a lower time frame set up to take up to 24.73 or so if that doesn't get hit. And as I said, looking to kind of just TP the current long on the way up. There's definitely a lot of low resistance liquidity here that's just going to get kind of wiped pretty easily. But I do think ultimately this supply sends us back down. And then we take out those equal lows and then maybe go higher. We're going to have like a pretty nice setup, I think, brewing on the monthly chart here, because you've got your January candle, probably going to end up with like 1-2 sweeps of the January low. And then we're going to have a nice little imbalance, fair value gap, chilling right there above the January high. So this would be just like a clean edge to edge range trade on the monthly. Maybe that's just a lower high on the high time frame and we go down. But like this is going to bounce with a very high probability at some point, right? It's not going to just go straight to zero in a straight line. But the best possible area to take a long out of, you can kind of see it here on the monthly chart. This is like your Big Daddy monthly origin order block. You can see the fair value gap created right in here. So anything that you can buy kind of like in this region from 1964 all the way down to 1403. I don't think it goes that deeply if it's bullish. Honestly, it might just kind of tap the top of the zone. But anything down in here, I think should be like a pretty juicy swing trade to 3,400-ish, maybe all the way back up to the range highs. There are some nice equal highs chilling here, 4,700. It's a heck of a trade. Elsewhere in crypto land, we've been pretty focused on hype. I was showing you Hyperliquid pretty hard last week, along with the equity treasury company PURR. Clean that up there. And it was a good week. Good week for hype. Caught some big moves. When was this? Yeah, this is basically all day Monday. We had a huge push up and honestly held up pretty good throughout all the chaos of the week. Right. So hype, probably the best monthly candle in all of crypto. This is like S tier God monthly candle because you've got your high time frame zone right here with the mid range. And what do you get? You get a very clean sweep into the mid range and then a nice move up on this candle. So I think there's a pretty good chance that the Pico low of Hyperliquid is in. I think if you own zero Hyperliquid at this point, that's a mistake. There is always the chance we could go back down to this zone I've been watching forever. Ideally, $14-ish. But we don't have to go here. Is probably like this is probably down to like a 20-25% probability at this point, I think. And there's a very good chance that I think greater than 50% that the bottom is either in here or like one more sweep lower, and we just end up front running this demand here. So it's looking really good on the high time frame, and the setup for longs is really clean right now because as we like to talk about, look at all of the liquidity curve that's built up here, just all these unswept highs. This is just really nice upside fuel. So it can go through these levels in a hurry. It's a couple of areas you want to be cautious of. The main one is this bearish origin order block up here. So $52 or so, you definitely want to be, if you're long from, down here in the low 20s with us, you definitely want to be taking profits at $52 because this can always do the altcoin thing, right? Where it just looks so bullish and it's pumping and everybody's like, did you buy the dip? And then it like does this and then it goes back up, we've all seen it. Just sucks to round trip your entire trade, even if it doesn't stop you out. So take profits at $52, please. Even before $52, there's a little bit of a trouble area right around here. Right around here. Dude, what the? It says the mic is working here. Guys, is this seriously not working? I'm so tilted. It's back? I didn't even do anything. Ugh, God. I don't know. I give up sometimes. I don't know where it cut out. I was trying to give like an entry plan for you guys on Hype for like kind of like a shorter term trade. I was mentioning that you've got the weekend lows here at 27.5 and you've got a nice consolidation after a move up. So you can often see price taking out the weekend highs or lows before it goes. So you could have something like this, sweep this out, and then that becomes an entry. You know, you target that zone, and then you could probably target all the way up to here if your stop is down below 20. But ideally, you want price to be, you want to be getting an entry in this region here. So price already tagged that part. So you've got this high here. Yeah. So this zone here is kind of your point of interest for a long if you're not in the trade. So looking for some sort of sweep of the weekend lows, you know, ideally you can frame it around like a sweep of like a daily low with some sort of like 1 hour market structure shift, get in there, stop below the daily low, take it to liquidity up here. If you're framing like a really high time frame trade, then you want your stop to be still below these lows if you're on leverage. And if you're on spot, right, you should really just be buying all the way down here, honestly, if given not financial advice. But yeah, we are very bullish on Hyperliquid. We're also very bullish on PURR, which is trying to break out of this consolidation. I really want to see a strong move up this week and some consolidation, leaving behind a little fair value gap there. Then we can kind of have faith that we're not going to fall back into the range. If we do fall back into the range, I am buying pretty heavily in the 350-ish region, and I will buy lower if it goes lower for some reason. I would be surprised if this goes lower than $3 again, but I'm happy to keep buying all the way down. I think Hype is now my largest single holding of any coin, of any stock, of anything in my portfolio. And I like it because there's just like a huge opportunity there that I feel like is not really recognized by the market yet. And I think it would be interesting to kind of go over. I don't trade on the basis of this, but like I sometimes use it to kind of supplement my ideas or gather my thoughts or frame stuff around the price action. I did a little thought exercise in GPT here and kind of talked about where we might be getting a sort of valuation for Hype, price targets, like how they're grounded in reality. For those of you who missed it, Hyperliquid, I think, announced some sort of prediction markets last week. So in recent days, they've opened up trading on precious metals like silver, perpetuals on stocks. Now we've got prediction markets. The writing is on the wall in my mind. Like this is basically going to be like the trading platform for everything on Earth at a certain point. There's no reason why like every single asset on planet Earth, or at least like the derivatives of it, cannot be traded on Hyperliquid, right? So the TAM that we're talking about here, the total addressable market cap is huge. And when you start factoring in the potential of going into the equity perps market more broadly and into FX perps, which I think is this really like insane pie in the sky that has not even been touched yet, the volume there is mind blowing, right? So you can see here, if Hyperliquid is able to capture 0.5% of global FX trading, that's equivalent to like $37.5 billion a day. I think there's a universe where that number is well over 0.5%, to be honest. I don't think that's a story for 5 years from now, but like, I think it could be a story for, over 10 years from now. Like if you have like a very long time horizon, equity perps, 5 billion to 20 billion a day. You're looking at 57.5 billion a day, 21 trillion a year in annualized trading volume for kind of like the bull case of what this pans out for. You got your take rate of about 1 BIP, 95% of the fees used for buybacks. The nice thing about Hyperliquid is that, like, unlike all the other bullshit coins that we trade in crypto land, for those of you who are not aware of this, there's like an actual like value capture mechanism for the token. The token has utility because it's used and necessary to do listings of new assets. And the token also accrues value because there are buybacks of the token that happen from the Hyperliquid fund from the fees generated on the platform. So fees generated on the platform directly translates to buy pressure for the token. Demand to create new markets directly translates to buy pressure on the token. And I think that particular element of it is quite predictable, since I think they have a finite number of markets that can be launched per day or per week or thus per year, and you can kind of really like easily predict that revenue. But you got your $1 to $3 billion implied annual earnings, your buyback budget, and so if you put a 20x multiple on this, which is honestly I think pretty low, you're hitting $60 billion protocol value there. That takes you to $60 hype, right? So when we were buying this at like $20, that was like, okay, this is like easily like a 3x from just kind of like conservative predictions, right? Once you start talking about the bull market, the float based stuff, it's pretty easy to get over like a $200 price target on this. And if you want to dream, right, of the Ultra Bull, which I think is like a pretty high base case, right? Like I don't think it's crazy that Hyperliquid reaches like 1% of FX of like stock volume via like we're not even talking about like stocks actually being traded and settled here. We're just talking about like stock derivatives. I think there's a world where this like a lot of these things get tokenized and traded and settled on Hyperliquid, right? And so in a scenario where all this happens, like you're looking way over $100 billion valuation, $400 to $500 hype price, which is a smooth 15x or so from here. So I think that it's all about the asymmetry, right? The downside is so like known and finite and capped to me, and the upside is pretty incredible. And this is, of course, this is just like reasonable pricing, right? This is just like what people do rationally. This doesn't take into account, bubble-ish bull market conditions where people just start irrationally bidding these things to the moon. So, who knows how high we can go if that happens, right? The other side of this coin is that like most of my hype exposure is in the form of PURR. And the interesting thing about PURR is that it trades currently now, it was not before, but it's now trading at like a slight premium to the price of the value of the Hyperliquid holdings it has, right? And I think this premium could go to quite a large number because we haven't gotten to this stage yet where institutions are starting to like actually like recognize and think about and buy hype. There's this larger macro shift that's like happening in crypto where we're seeing particular subsets of crypto start to like permanently decouple from Bitcoin, which I think is a good thing and a necessary thing because it allows the space to not just be thought of as like Bitcoin and like Bitcoin derivative projects, right? It allows the space to branch out of that paradigm, and we could start thinking about this space as in the same way that we think about the stock market, where they're just companies that do different things, and they don't all have to be like one-to-one correlated with the movements of everything else in the market, right? So once the market is sort of like acclimated to this idea that stuff can go up when Bitcoin goes down, and that there's like cash flows and revenues attached to these things, right? Now I think like substantial money can start like pouring into the space and like start viewing these things in the same way that they view equities, right? And start viewing them as undervalued in the same way they view certain equities as undervalued. And if these pools of capital start to want to start allocating to HYPE, they can't even buy the HYPE token on like Coinbase right now, right? Even if they could gain exposure to tokens, right? But a lot of them can't buy tokens anyway. And so they start looking for equity substitutes. This is what we saw back in the day with MSTR and Bitcoin, right? And I think MSTR went to like over a 400% premium versus the underlying holdings, right? We saw this stuff with like the grayscale ETFs during the 2021 bull market. I feel like the Solana ETF at one point was trading at like a 15x multiple or something stupid to the underlying Solana holdings. So in a world where these pools of capital can't buy tokens, they can't buy ETFs, like PURR is kind of the only game in town. And the market cap of this coin, right? It's very small. Not a lot of trading volume on this. So if you are going to buy it responsibly, please. But like this thing can move. And if we're talking about a world where HYPE goes to $250, and that's like roughly an 8x from here, and you're talking about PURR trading at like a 4x premium, well, that would be a 32x. So you're talking about $140 PURR, maybe. A guy can dream. Yeah, not saying it's definitely going to happen, but like there's the possibility it happens. And in the downside, I think the downside on PURR is basically in. Like you have to understand, like down here, this was like peak like hyperliquid puking. We had just large players divesting of all their holdings. The crypto market was selling off. And I think we hit like a 40% discount to NAV here. So I don't think PURR is going back to $3. I think it would take like a pretty nuclear outcome for that to happen. And the other thing that's nice about the company is that like unlike Sailor, they've kind of demonstrated that they're willing to defend the stock price. Like they're buying back the stock when it's at a discount, which is smart if you want exposure to PURR or Hyper, right? Or excuse me, HYPE. And that's your prerogative as a company. Well, if you buy back your stock when your stock's trading at a discount, you're basically buying HYPE at a discount, right? It's effectively the same thing. So I am incredibly optimistic about this. If this thing starts trading at like a huge premium, like 100%, 200% premium, I'm going to be taking profits of it and probably just moving the money into spot HYPE because I think I probably am going to still want to be exposed. I don't want to get caught up in this thing where it starts trading at like a 4x premium and then like an ETF rolls out and it collapses to like 1.2 or something like that. That wouldn't be very fun. But that would be like a very like first world problem to have, right? Because if my premium is collapsed from 4x to 1x, it probably means the spot price of this token is already like 10 or 20x at that point. So good times. Anyway, that's my Boltard HYPE PURR posting. It will not be the last you hear from me on this. I'll tell you that. Let's talk about some TradFi stuff real quick. Main thing in the TradFi markets is that we had a bit of a wrench thrown in last week with the nomination of Kevin Warsh to the Fed chair. It was definitely something that caught the markets by surprise. We saw some dramatic swings in metals in particular. I did say last week that we were marking the top of the metals trade. I do at least have like a good sense at this point for when I'm I'm top posting. I'm good at getting into trades early. I feel like a lot of the time I do a stream topic on something. It's the it's the top. We had a just nasty move on gold and on silver. I think we wiped out like $20 trillion of $30 trillion of market cap or something like that, which is absolutely insane. I think gold and silver probably toast for a bit. I think this is going to take a while to, recover and play out, whether that goes lower or I don't know. I think the Warsh thing is tricky because the dollar is not destined to go to toilet paper anymore. Warsh is like he's a Stan Druckenmiller protege, much like the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. And Druck is kind of like an anti-inflation guy. He's kind of a austerity guy. He's kind of like we got to take our medicine and endure some short-term pain to enshrine the future safety of this country kind of guy. And that, broadly speaking, is bearish for risk assets and bearish for metals, because a lot of that metals thesis is predicated on the dollar continuing to go to zero and our politicians continuing to just like print money willy-nilly. So if there's some sort of complete paradigm shift in the way that the political figures in our government start behaving towards the money supply and the debt and the deficit, I mean, yeah, it could be a lot. Matt, so in terms of holding spot gold, are you cutting those positions? Yeah, in the Discord last week, I said I was taking a ton of profits in those. And on Thursday night, unfortunately, when this came out, it was like Thursday night. I think a lot of people were just like not even around. But Thursday night, when I saw the Warsh odds spiking on Polymarket, I just went over to the silver futures and basically just shorted like right here at around like $98 and just like hedged out like everything I had. And just woke up the next morning and it was just a freaking bloodbath. And then I sold down a bunch of my spot holdings in like GLD and silver when the market opened here in New York hours. Took the hedge off, and I am pretty light on the precious metals right now. I got up to like a third of my net worth, I think, in precious metals, and that's probably back down to like 5% or something right now. And I think this resumes being a good trade at some point. I highly doubt that politicians worldwide just have a come to Jesus moment and we stop printing money. But like, I don't know. I feel like somebody blew up pretty badly here at some point. We got to like Uber drivers talking about silver status. And is that something we rectify in like 5 days? Probably not. So, yeah, I've moved a lot of the interest over, to crypto. One of the things that I've been kind of bearish on that I think is worth reconsidering. I mean, one thing is the dollar, right? And this is unfortunate for me because I published like a whole newsletter last week talking about how I sold all of my stock, my US stock indexes, and bought like foreign stock indexes or indices, however you say it. And a lot of that was predicated on, the analysis that the dollar is going to be just nuking like 20, 30% in coming years, right? And like if you're earning money by investing in US stocks whose earnings are largely denominated in dollars, like you have this like huge hurdle rate to overcome the currency debasement. And then that same thing is like an enormous tailwind for foreign stuff. So I had pointed out this chart pattern here on EEM QQQ. EEM being this kind of emerging market. It's called like emerging markets, but there's like a lot of like Korea and stuff like that. Seems kind of insulting to our Korean brethren. A lot of Chinese stocks, stuff like that. From a technical perspective, I mean, like a breakout of here, which has not happened yet on the high time frame. We did get a close above on the daily, but then it was immediately smacked back down with the Warsh news, right? So a close above this neckline, a breakout above this neckline means a 40 to 60%, in my mind, outperformance of this basket of foreign stocks versus the NASDAQ, right? And so because like nobody is exposed to foreign stocks, like it's just something that like nobody does. Everybody's been lulled into this like sense of like, oh, just buy US stocks only go up. And they have. I mean, look at the chart for this chart's insane. It's gone down only since 2008, right? And it may be bottoming here, but like basically it's been stupid to do anything other than buy the NASDAQ. It's just slaughtered everything else. So if this regime shifts, everybody's going to be way off sides on this, like way off sides. But I think that's a TBD now. I don't know what's going to play out with Warsh. I don't think anybody does. And I think equities are a very murky picture right now. But the other thing I wanted to talk about related to Warsh is that a lot of the stuff people are not talking about with him relates to his relationship with AI. He's got like connections to Palantir and big tech. The administration, as a part of their sort of plan to like boost the economy, reduce the deficit, all that. A lot of that is wrapped in, we've heard Besant talk about his like 3-3-3 thing where there's like 3% growth or whatever. A lot of that 3% GDP or whatever the number is to run it hot is predicated on juicing productivity via AI, right? So if there starts to be this like unified front of the federal government, the treasury, and like the Fed, all like kind of on the juice AI train, and like we're putting the full force of all of these areas of the government behind the AI tech basket, it's just going to be stupid to not be balls long tech. And that's been a tricky trade recently. And I'm still, to be transparent, I'm still short NVIDIA at the moment as a hedge. I've been short NVIDIA for months at this point, just waiting to see if this ends up resolving to the downside. As time goes on and the government just keeps getting more involved in like boosting these companies, like it becomes like a kind of progressively stupider trade to have on, I think. Not to say that we still can't like run these range lows here and then go up and you still win on the trade, but like it's still a bad long-term position. I just don't know the extent to which I want to fade that. And this is something we have to keep thinking about in the modern world is like, what does the government want to happen, right? Because we're so far away from free markets now. The government's just buying stakes in companies and these companies are mooning like 20% the next day and all sorts of crazy shit like that. But a lot of these big tech names have been really shitty in recent months, but then suddenly like last couple of weeks, Meta is a good example of this. A huge breakdown, but like, did we just double bottom here? Is it now reacting? Are we going to come out of this range and just go back to up only? Is possible, right? Similar thing with Microsoft. Had a very, very nasty breakdown. There's other stuff involved with Microsoft, right? Like a lot of Microsoft value is kind of tied up in the market's thoughts on like Chat GPT, which has been, I think, kind of like a bearish thing recently. But are we going to just come down into demand and resume up only? I don't know. I was feeling a lot better being short these names earlier than I am right now. But like equities in general, right? Like when I look at the S&P 500 chart, it's just a bit of a mess. It's having a hell of a move today. But like, it's basically chopping above and kind of failing to close above this range high. And my base case, I think, is still a move, a correction down to at least like 6,700 or so, and then maybe back up. But this could also resolve as like a run of the range lows and back higher. And it could also resolve as Kevin Warsh goes full Druckenmiller and takes us all the way back down to the tariff lows. There's just so much uncertainty right now. And sometimes I trade and I feel like I have like a very clear picture of what the market wants to do and where I want to be positioned. And transparently, that's just not the case right now when it comes to equities. I actually am not sure how this is all going to resolve in the near term. I do know that if we have any sort of significant sell-off, I definitely want to buy it for the long term, but I don't have good like kind of 1-2 month conviction right now unless we get a decisive break back above the consolidation here, which I don't know, maybe underway at the moment. We'll see. This is probably the worst spot to get really bulled up on stocks because we're just retesting the supply from the Fed chair nuke right here. So this could easily reject and go lower. It does get pretty interesting if we start closing candles above 7K again. Then I think the bears may be in for a rude awakening at that point. But a little more time, a little more data needed to see where this is going. Tesla, another one of those names that like I really, really, really want to own. The chart has been very, very, very messy on the lower time frames. Just deleted all my indicators. Okay. My hope for Tesla, the bull case for Tesla in terms of like what is the best thing that could happen in the short term here is that I really don't want to be longing this for any sort of like high time frame trade until it tests like 403 or so. I would feel uneasy if it just started pumping from here up into like 470 and just left this behind because I would just view a very high probability it comes back down and maybe bottoms there, but also maybe like ends up going lower and then just starts kind of going deeper into this range. It's a weird spot because like I could see a macro bottom forming here, but if it doesn't, there's a lot of like ugliness sitting right below. It's just like a giant kind of like liquidity curve here. And then you look lower and then the next real demand you see is not till 260 or so. And it's a nasty drawdown to eat, like 40%. I don't really want to eat that. So what I've been looking for is a consolidation to form in this region. So check on that. We've got a nice consolidation. I want to see price like fake out down into this zone and do something like that. That is going to be the dream setup for me. Probably need to take this 406 extreme range liquidity here. Really like to see us like tag this order block. It's just gonna be so awkward if it just pumps straight from here. But if we get like some sort of like, I don't know what the headline will be, but there's some either market wide or Tesla based FUD and it just nukes into this zone on the lower time frame and then like strong move back Dude, what the fuck, man? We're back. Out again? Oh my god. I think it's working now. I don't know what's going on today. I swear to God, I'm not touching anything. I've got all the levels in front of me. The mic is on. It's the cabal. They don't want you to acquire generational wealth taking my trade ideas. Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys catch? I don't know if you guys caught any of the Tesla stuff I was saying. Let me just go over it real quick in case we didn't hear it. One more time for the people in the back. No, the mic doesn't have a timeout. I mean, I don't know why that would even be a thing. Oh God, now I got myself on my phone here. Jesus. Okay. Anyway, what I was saying about Tesla is the most bullish scenario here is that you basically just want this to remain sort of with the intermediate term market structure intact, right? So here's your higher high way up here, and then here's your higher low, and then here's your higher high, right? So we want this to bottom here because we want this to just be a very simple continuation of this market structure and to go up. If we break this low, it opens up the possibility of us coming down here into this kind of 250-ish region and then reaccumulating, and who knows how long this takes, and then we go back up, right? So this is the area we want to bottom in, right? And the fact that we swept this range high and sold off, it doesn't mean it's over. It could just be like a little rejection. We gather more fuel and then we break through, right? So the point where I want this to go to in order to take a long is I want to find the extreme demand of the range, which is down here. That demand, you can see, created a fair value gap right here. There's a little gap. See the little gappy? You could see price mitigates part of that gap with this low, but it doesn't tap into this demand. So this is potentially the mega rocket fuel sitting here that can send us to all-time highs. So I've wanted to see this sell-off stop, which it has, a consolidation form, which it has, and then the next step for me for a potential generational long setup is for us to get some sort of continued chop, but then a run of the range lows and that extreme liquidity here. And then that is the setup I'm waiting for. And if I get that and we get this move down without some like huge like one-way candle, but there's kind of like a structured move down and a clear kind of like range deviation, this could be the trade. This could be the long from $400 to $2,000 or whatever, right? I think this thing is going very high someday. I think it's very interesting that Elon nixed the Model S and the Model X factory. It's been my understanding that we're like many years away from robots. And if you look at like what percentage of the Tesla price, the like Optimus like is actually built into it, it's pretty small. It might be like $30 or something out of like $425, right? But if Elon is like nixing production of cars like today to build that, which I think is kind of like a risky decision because like, let's be honest, it's kind of fucking lame if just like every single Tesla is like a Model Y. It's just like, it's kind of lame. But in a world where you just like don't think your retail car sales business like even matters anymore, because the entire business is just based on the future expected value of like autonomy, robo taxis, and robots, then yeah, like selling cars, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if like you're just making Model Ys. If you're, well, the Model Ys are self-driving things that basically make all other cars obsolete. So hopefully that's the case, and we get to buy a Tesla at like $402 and it goes straight to the moon. It's the hopium. Not going to happen if there's like a huge sell-off in stocks. If Warsh decides to kill the markets for some reason, a lot of uncertainty right now. But I do think this is probably my base case. I wouldn't say I have like strong conviction in this being the scenario, but I think it is the most probable of all the scenarios. And that's good because it is the most bullish. Oh yeah, I forgot about Estee Lauder. That was funny. So for those of you who missed it, is it EL? This is probably pumping now and I'm an idiot. Yeah, of course it is. I mean, it's up 3% from the nomination. Yeah, for those of you who missed it, there's some shadowy Trump cabal connections. The Fed chair is coming from the guy who runs Estee Lauder. And so we just buy Estee Lauder because why not? You know, that's what we do. Basically a meme stock play, I guess. Fed bullish for cosmetics. Man, this thing got smoked. I don't know. Might not be that bad of a chart. Let me see. That's a log chart. That was a deep pullback. Woo! Damn. Yeah. I don't know. I got no desire to put Estee Lauder in my portfolio, but it probably just goes up a lot now. It's probably smart to just YOLO some calls on it and call it a day. You know? Marty would rather not own Lauder. I gotcha. All right. If you guys get any questions, requests, I'm going to start jumping into them into the chat. Drop them in the chat. I'm going to start jumping into them. I don't want this to turn into like a 2-hour stream. I do have one little tiny thing I wanted to talk about. If you have been living under a rock, clawdbot is a thing now, or OpenClaw, as it's called. So if you guys have not checked this out yet, you should. I've got a little assistant running in the background now, just compiling research reports for me and dropping them into a Notion doc over here. Like I can see her create. She built her own project management task board last night. There's research pouring in here. She's got to learn how to trade, and it's like my mind is so blown. Like I almost can't even focus on trading right now, because the idea of just taking time in my day to trade, it just seems so small compared to like what this unlock is for like humanity. If you don't learn how to use this thing, like I don't understand like how you have like a job in like a year or two. Like this makes you like 1,000 times more productive than like a normal human, like infinity times more productive. It can like work while you sleep and spin off like sub instances of itself. I'm like I was over here this morning. I'm researching like $150,000 like server setups to like turn my back room into like into some massive like rack setup where I can like run all these models locally. It's crazy. Yes, Pat, it can read a chart. It absolutely can read a chart. I am like 90% certain right now that I can teach this thing all of the systems I use to trade, and I can so my goal is to as a phase one, turn this into like my eyes and ears, right? One of the problems I have in the modern world is that there's just too much information, right? There's so many stocks, there's so many coins. I subscribe to all these newsletters, I subscribe to all these signal services, I follow people on Twitter. It's impossible for me to process this information as a human. So phase one for me is like, can I make this thing take all of the information that I am subscribing to and just turn it into like a easily digestible thing for me to read, right? Phase two is to teach it the system I use to trade. And so now instead of it feeding me like a 10-page doc in the morning from all of the thousands of pages of stuff that it sort of combed through and assigned, right? Now it can take all of that stuff and look at a chart with all of those things and be like, is there a setup here? And now I've put like 2 filters between like myself. So now I just wake up in the morning and I get like a trade idea that's been pre-screened from all of my criteria. And as a human, I just look at the chart, right? And I'm the final guy that's like, yes, this is a good trade, or no, this is a bad trade. Because I still think there's just like an enormous level of discretion involved in trading. Even if you have like a very good system, there's still this like very human element to it that I have struggled to kind of put in terms of just pure formula. But phase 3, I think that goes away. Like phase 3, I think I can get something like this to quantify whatever I call discretion in my brain, in terms of like, that's just like a machine learning task. That's just, there are things I don't see or I don't understand that I'm seeing that I call discretion, but that actually can be either quantified or just like recognized and acted upon by like an LLM, right? And now I've achieved the holy grail, right? I've got something that is scanning the whole marketplace of knowledge, because this is the thing about the modern world too, is like there are legitimately so many good people out there putting out information, especially some of the people who are like putting out the paid information, because there are guys collecting $200 a month to to do research, and like they actually have like teams of assistants working for them, like their own like self-contained kind of like hedge funds, right? And they're actually putting out really, really good work. And for the first time in like all of financial history, like I think like you legitimately can just like subscribe to the right people who have the right ideas and just make money copy trading people, right? I actually think you can do that, just because of the quality of information that's out there now. Where this becomes difficult is that if at a certain point you just get overwhelmed with like a tidal wave of information, it's too much to process. So if all you did was just screen and aggregate all of the good information out there, and you also had an ongoing process to sort of like rank whose information is the best and like adjust that over time, then you have like a system for like finding, selecting, and executing trades that I think could actually work pretty well. And so that's what I'm building out for my person right now using this. I'm going to roll that out to the Discord community, in the paid subs in some capacity at some point, and kind of like enhance like what we're doing there in the Discord. So if you don't want to like spend 8 hours a day just kind of combing over this, like after you've already worked all day, like I'm doing, kind of obsessing over this right now, that's fine. I'll probably have something for you that's like pretty cool at some point this year, I think. My goal is to not just have this be something that is good for like the Discord community, right? Like I want to like build like an AGI trading assistant that like I can roll out to anybody, and like build like some really sick software that just totally juices up people's ability to trade and invest. It's super sick. I'm super into it. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked this out yet, I would highly recommend. I think there's a bunch of jobs that it can do even better than it can help with trading. I'm supposed to help my little bro this afternoon, I think, help him get set up on a setup for his line of work, which I think it's going to be really, really sick for. So exciting times. I was actually looking at some trades to take on the basis of this. You know, like the most obvious stuff is kind of like the kind of data center infrastructure, like stuff specifically like Cloudflare though. And I did see Cloudflare caught like a decent bid. What is it? Net? Yeah. Cloudflare is kind of an interesting stock to me. If we were going to try to invest in the idea that this might go ham, you've got expansion and then you've got an imbalance here on the 3-month, right? So if you were to get some continuation, this is a level where you could get it from around like 180. The monthly chart is not great. We don't like seeing these candles that close below the levels. It's usually an indication that price probably wants to come back for another sweep. So that would be my baseline on this, I think, but it's potentially an interesting stock to look at. I pulled up a bunch of others, and honestly, none of the charts were super calling to me. One that looked kind of interesting, which is a little bit more of a derivative play, is MongoDB. I thought didn't look too bad. I think you can make the case that basically Mongo it bottomed here. We're undergoing a new expansion leg. We're going to break out of this zone, but first it had to mitigate this supply that created a fair value gap here. So it's pretty strong supply, but with Mongo, you do have a monthly order block, so there's a good point of interest. You can pair that with the January low, which we have a sweep of now. You want to see like a monthly close with this sweep, so it's like an early signal. When you zoom in on the lower time frame, this is not a good sweep setup because the change in the stated delivery level is way up here, and then you have like an impulsive move with a gap down. So it's very rare that this ends up just going straight up and closing above and then going. Far more common, you'll see this move up and then like put in like another low. So I'd be very curious to see if this sweeps again. We could possibly narrow this demand down to this little fractal here. So maybe like a move into the 352 region or something like that, with a kind of a daily change or a 4-hour change in the state of delivery. Maybe we get like a weekly sweep fractal down in here. That could be interesting for a long on Mongo. So keeping an eye on it. But yeah, haven't seen anything screaming out to me as like an obvious trade. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. Pat saying, was that CrowdStrike? CrowdStrike could be interesting. CrowdStrike, they're kind of like security, right? So security issues aplenty with this thing. I'll tell you that. Let's zoom out. So the yearly chart looks good. There's your main yearly level, 398. The monthly 3-month chart looks a little bearish. So there's your 3-month level there. That might get taken. So that could be an interesting point of interest. You've got a huge 3-month order block here. So that's nice. It's a pretty good high time frame chart. If you can buy kind of like sub 400 here, there's a lot of interesting levels. You've got this yearly high, you've got this quarterly order block. So that, yeah, this might actually look interesting for a long. I'm wondering even if this 403 level holds. It looks, could kind of go either way on this. It might hold. I would want to see a little more consolidation and some sort of sweep, I think. But yeah, it's possible that this just holds as like a higher low, honestly. We've kind of mitigated a bunch of the nasty areas over here. We mitigated the Weekly fair value gap already. Yeah, so that's been mitigated. It's just this is kind of the main problem area up there. But yeah, I could probably get behind that. And honestly, for like a long-term investment, it's like whether you buy it here at 437 or you buy it at like 393, it's not an enormous difference. There's a bit of a sell-off, I guess. That's like maybe like 10% or so. But yeah, it looks good. Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it. Let's jump into some of the chats. Oh, by the way, we shorted World Liberty last week. That's looking pretty good. It hasn't hit my TP levels yet. I think it will. I think it probably bounces in here and continues lower. So keep an eye on that one. I'll update that one. I ended up actually taking this trade off beforehand due to some other shenanigans in the spirit of full transparency. But for those of you who are still in the trade, it's still looking good to the downside there. What are you saying? TSM, ASML? Yeah, I mean, TSM is just so good. It's a great looking chart. I actually don't own this company. I probably should. It is such a strong chart. I mean, it's so much stronger than NVIDIA. Yeah, like I wonder the extent to which we start seeing like runs on like Mac Minis and stuff like that. I can see a world where like a Mac Mini costs like $20,000 like a year or two from now. Like it's possible, you know? And it's interesting to think about. That's probably a prompt I should run through ChatGPT actually. Like imagine a world where Mac Mini demand flies way off the charts. What are the companies that would benefit most from the price of Mac Minis going through the moon? That would be a fun exercise. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the stream. So there's probably some like interesting stuff in there. It's like a cool way to use GPT, by the way. If you don't, you just have like a thesis. You feed like a weird thesis into it. It spits out stuff, and then I check the chart. Always got to have a good chart. Can't just have a good thesis. Got to have a good chart as well. Okay, Decots, you wanted entry opportunities for a long on HYPE. I think we already covered that. So I think the only other thing I got here that's remaining is Pump. You guys want a chart request for Pump? I can't imagine it looks good given my opinion of the Solana chart, which is not high, but we'll take a look. Pump. Got to pump it. Pump it up. Okay. Yeah, I mean, monthly chart, a couple things immediately jump out to me. One, you got a very flat candle there from January. That's probably going to get taken, that yearly open right there. So that's going to be weighing on longs, I think. I also just don't like this December low. That like still looks like it's going to get swept to me. On the plus side, there seem to be some equal highs up here, so we can see if that looks okay on the lower time frames. Yeah, this looks pretty bearish on the weekly. This is your supply over here. This is your supply that produces a pretty strong fair value gap. Price is wicking and respecting the 50. That looks kind of bearish. You do have a pretty bullish weekly order block here, though. And this level is kind of interesting because it produced a fair value gap. So I think there's an opportunity for a short down to 2053. That looks interesting. Ideally from a little higher up here, I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't know if it gives it to you, but like if you were to get some sort of move like back up and then some sort of lower time frame entry model, this level is like kind of interesting. But then I would actually wonder if like longs would be good here to take out these equal highs. Could see something like this happening. Kind of fits in, I think, with what I'm expecting in a lot of crypto. Wait, did we talk about virtual yet? I don't think we talked about virtual. We gotta talk about virtual. We gotta talk about that. Because I was talking about how there's not really a cool way to invest in the Claude thing in equity land that I've identified yet. But I think in crypto land, we got like the perfect thing. Like virtual was made for this shit. So virtual protocol, for those of you who don't know, this is something that's been on my radar for a while. I got really into it again recently with the whole robot money narrative. They were doing robotics. I mean, this is like get all your buzzwords now. You got your AI, autonomous AI agents, and your robots in like crypto land. Pretty cool. It's obviously been just getting smoked because crypto as a whole has been terrible. But honestly, the high time frame chart is somewhat interesting. You have to squint a little bit, I think, to be optimistic, but this is kind of our root demand there. You also got this 10-10 wick, which was kind of a mess. Kind of fucked up some of these charts. Put on my deviations here. Yeah, so I am, you know, I've been wondering for a while if this was a structure break here, and this whole move down has just been sort of like a retrace, right? But ultimately, this is going to pump back up, and if it does pump back up, I don't see anything in this chart that is going to stop it until like way up here at like 334. And that is a modest 400% from here. So I haven't seen like a really good lower time frame entry fractal yet, but kind of open to the idea that maybe this range ends up being our kind of final accumulation range. And so like if we come down here to like a lower time frame, this definitely needs a little more time to develop, but like maybe we come up here, maybe we even take this high and then kind of come back down, and then either that or maybe we sweep out the low one more time, probably more ideally back inside the range. Like if we get something like that paired around this like 10-10 wick with the context of like all of this other stuff I just showed you, the market structure shift, the higher time frame, I mean, this looks really, really good. This is only like a 400 million market cap only, but like, I don't know, in the realm of AI, that seems like a drop in the bucket. Like, why can't it could go to 40 billion? Like if things get stupid and stuff works out, it's 100 to 1. So it's worth an allocation just because of the 100x potential. I would even argue that there's a world where this goes to hundreds of billions, and then you could start thinking about like getting close to like 1,000x on it or something. Not a high probability outcome, but it's like mathematically possible. And so, you know, even if the probability is small, that's quite a bit of expected value. So Yeah, I really like this. I've always liked this project. I'm kind of biased towards it because I found it at like a penny or something stupid, and then wrote it to $4 and caught some agents along the way, and it was like a hell of a bubble. Uh, but like I've always liked the project. They've always been building, which is good. Obviously, we started off with these agents that were just kind of glorified chat bots, but like I don't know, things are interesting now. One thing they rolled out recently that is kind of cool is they've had this problem on the platform where there's been this like mismatch of incentives if you're say like a random dev who's launching an agent just to kind of fuck around and experiment versus you're a dev that like has kind of like a developed team and wants to do some sort of like tokens lock and be like vested for the long haul versus you're like already an established well-funded project with like a ton of money, right? So the way that the platform worked before, where you had this like kind of like agent launch and there was this like bonding curve, and that like it didn't work for all of the projects, and it kind of created like weird incentives, right? So what they did recently was they rolled out like three kind of tiers of launch, three segments of launch. I think it's called Pegasus, Unicorn, and Titan. So I think you can do like a Pegasus launch where it's basically like I'm testing this in production. This kind of old bonding curve element, but like there's not like locked tokens for the dev. Like the dev has to actually like buy their tokens on the open market, like when they're free with everybody else. So it's kind of cool. And then they have like the unicorn, which I think is like a very, it's kind of like there's lock tokens for the team in the same bonding pool, but I think those tokens are like released in a transparent fashion that's like tied to outcomes of the project. So it's not kind of like the dev just randomly dumps the tokens, right? And then they have like a Titan, which just seems to be like a totally different mechanism where you've already a large project with a lot of traction. I don't think they have like the same bonding curve. There's just like a giant liquidity pool with some requirements. So a lot of stuff going on in virtual's world, and again, like I wanted to decouple more from Bitcoin. I actually wonder what the virtual's Bitcoin chart looks like. I don't know if I've looked at this in a long time. Not the worst thing I've ever seen. Not the worst thing I've ever seen. Gotta just we like triangles. We like triangles. Triangles are good. Yeah, it's kind of not a bad chart. I've seen much worse altcoin charts than this one. You know, the virtual's USD chart and the virtual's BTC chart, they just like look to me like those types of charts that are kind of tricky to get entries on. Like one day you just wake up and this candle exists. And so I think you just got to like take a long-term perspective. You buy your FOMO bag now just in case it turbo pumps and you miss it, but like you mentally assume that you are not at the bottom and you keep buying it lower, and then you extend your time horizon out quite a bit because who knows if this is like a 1 month story or like a 2 year story. But the upside versus the downside is just so attractive to me at this point that it seems very silly to not own this. So I bought like a pretty good position in this over the weekend, and I want to buy a lot lower. My crypto portfolio is like almost entirely hyper liquid at this point. I think I still have more Ethereum than virtual because of my punk, I think, but like I don't know, like this is probably gonna end up exceeding my Bitcoin holdings, which are de minimis at this point. So interesting play for you guys to look at. I got one more request from Mike Ferroni in the chat, so I'll take a peek at that before we call it a day. PSTG, AI flash storage. This is going to be a moonshot stock, isn't it? Okay. Not up only. Yearly chart. Not the best yearly chart, not terrible, but closed as a sweep. Was there a structure break with the sweep? No. So that's good. This could just be a higher low forming on the monthly here at the range highs. Have a potential monthly fractal setup here because you got the sweep. The sweep of the monthly candle. There's no fair value gap here. Okay. Let's see what the daily looks like. Yeah, it looks pretty good actually. That looks pretty good. I don't love this giant gap down. That's going to probably be a problem for price. Like you can do that. So we don't love that. If I frame this as like a monthly candle trade, right, where this is my monthly candle, my sweep, and then my reversal candle, like a 3-candle fractal model, you'd be looking at the mid-range as a potential target. So the mid-range hasn't been tagged. But yeah, I think you've got this order block here that made the sweep. We've closed and accepted above it. So that looks pretty good. I would bet that $64 low holds. And then from like a trading perspective, you probably with like a little bit more of a tight entry. You'd be 1.5 to 1 from here. If it goes a little bit lower, you could get an easy 2 to 1. And this could probably go higher up in the zone too. But like when I have like a huge impulse like that, like the mid range of the range is often an area where price rejects, and then you have to mitigate the mid range, come back down and do something else, and then you can go higher. That's usually the framework I have for stuff like this. If you're talking about buying this for a long-term hold, I think it looks pretty good. I just think that because of the ugliness of this, like 1, 2 candle setup here, like these 2 candles, it's a pretty nasty like rejection fractal. And so it could take some time to mitigate all this stuff and then go back up. And it also could come up here, go lower into the zone, at which point this is probably a really good buy. Like if you're able to get this kind of like low 50s or something, that's got to be like that's got to be value. But yeah, I don't think I would buy it here except as a trade where I think I can frame a trade. Just because like when it comes to stocks, there's so many freaking stocks, like so many stock charts, right? And so when I'm looking at stocks, I don't feel the need to like buy stuff that's not like perfect, even though like, yeah, I could not buy it here and it could just rip up. It doesn't like really meet like all my criteria for I want to buy a long-term spot position here and have faith that it's not going to go 20% lower or chop sideways for like a year and then go up, because there's, I think, stuff we could buy right now that does meet those requirements, or there's stuff that's kind of on our radar that, we're watching and we might just want to sit in cash and wait for. Thoughts on Hood from Dario? Ah! Knew I should have sold this fucking thing. God damn it. So I was hoping to take a long out of here. I think I had drawn up a while ago because there's a decent imbalance here. So, oof. What the F happened here? Hood down, Hyperliquid up. I mean, Hyperliquid should be worth more than Hood, honestly. That's like one of my barometers for it. I should honestly just sell Hood and buy PURR. Like I probably should. I should have done that last week before it tanked like 20% on me. Yeah, so the first thing you're going to be looking at is this. This is the IPO high, right? So that's a pretty key level, 85. There's just no structure here on the way up, which is kind of nasty when you come down. Yeah, this is the only kind of structure we had. Not even really good structure on the weekly, to be honest. That's only like daily structure. Yeah. So no high time frame structure at all. Dario, what happened? Was there some news here I missed? Good God. Yeah, that looks ugly as fuck. So I don't know. I would buy this without like any sort of confirmations like down here, because that would be a return to the origin demand. Otherwise, it's possible that it bottoms around here because you basically would have probably a mid-range play. Yeah. So here you've got the mid-range of the move up, you've got this prior range high, you've got an imbalance. So it's definitely possible for price to consolidate and bounce here. But like buying here is something that requires you to wait for time to pass, wait for some of these areas to get mitigated, wait for price to show you that it's done going lower. Because as of now, like if we get like a bounce, like I would just sell it, honestly. Like if for some reason I don't think it's going to bounce this high, but if for some reason it bounced up to like 115, I would just sell it. I would sell it, and then I would just wait to see if it showed me it was going to do something crazy and maybe buy it back higher. But like I would be worried about like the potential of price going all the way back down to the origin, which is like a smooth 60% down, which sucks. Yeah. I honestly haven't looked at this that much because it's not in my trading portfolio, it's in my long-term portfolio. I bought the stock a lot lower and I liked it. It's gonna get close to my entry price at some point, I think. Yeah. I would not catch this falling knife, if that's what you're wondering. So I wouldn't be buying. And I would probably sell it on a bounce. Like if it just ripped back up from here, I would probably sell it. I don't know. I might even sell it at like 105 or something if it bounces there. This looks pretty uggo. And again, I would buy back in down here, or I would wait for something to develop as a trade-or, to show me that it wanted to stop nuking. But yeah, this is gross. This could be a short setup. Not from this level, but if it bounces, it could be interesting. All right. Well, that's sad. That's sad. But such is life with these stocks, I guess. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. I'm going to wrap it there. It's been almost 2 hours. I am incapable of doing a brief stream, but sorry for the technical difficulties. I would say they won't happen again, but I don't know why they happened. I swear to God, I didn't do anything. And on my monitor on the screen, the mic's working. I don't know. I'm really at a loss for words, but sorry about that. Thank you for sticking through this with me. I know a bunch of you did, so appreciate it. One more shout out for the free Discord if you guys want to join there and chat with me, chat with the community. It's growing. It's fun. A lot of activity in there now. We're getting some good trade ideas, doing all the things together, dealing with the world. But thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next Monday, same time, same place. Bye-bye now.